Yeah.
Because I actually want to have an interview as well with Mark Devlin.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that'd be great.
but
Yeah.
anyway, so you actually mentioned, I think once, I don't know what was your course that you were doing. Um,
I
that
know.
and you talked about the blueprint within music that it's quite similar. And I'm like, oh my God, there is a blueprint like that you
Yeah.
follow. When I was in composition classes, I'd have to, there was yeah, there were a few different versions of this similar sort of blueprint to create tension and release tension and keep the listener engaged. And um, yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Hip hop, pop, rock, all the same.
It's crazy. Like, do you know, I was like, I was so proud of myself because like no one ever taught me that. I was just listening to music and then studying the hero's journey. I'm like, holy shit! It's the same thing, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's a whole thing. I haven't even really gone into that as much as I think I will be going into it now once I get through all this stuff that I'm going through now with AA and um because it's like you know how you the more you learn about yourself, the more you see on the outside as that reflection of what's actually occurring.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, music that's a big one for me because that was a very personal. How do I say it? Relationship that had to be severed and I'm recreating that again from a different perspective. That was
Wow.
yeah, brutal.
I just think it's so I think it's so cool with you because you like everything that you've learned and stuff like in recent years you've got so many good vantage points like being a musician doing AA and then everything else that you've gone into, right? I just
Mm.
think I think you're primed to look at like so many of those different things. Even like if we're going to talk about like the whole God thing today because
Mm.
it just ties in with it ties in with the AA stuff so much.
It's like I get shivers sometimes when I'm like, oh my God, that when you talk about the false light, I know the false light now because I was with that. I had a contract with that being
Yeah,
for, a long time, almost a decade. And it is so loving and so, you know, um, giving and all encompassing. And that's really like on a small scale with what I experienced. Like when you talk about this, what you're seeing with this Christian revival movement happening on a mass scale, yeah, it's going to get a lot of people, I think. Or, which is why I want to talk about it because, um, yeah,
yeah,
now coming out of that, breaking that contract, um, I've actually had a lot of dreams almost every night now, and I never dream, or I never remember them at least, of um, I guess the dream being in a way where I'm back in my old self again and I need that God. It's kind of like
really.
trying to pull me, or I don't know if it's trying to pull me back in, or I wake up and completely in fear. And I go, whoa, that's not my, you know, um, everything that used to trigger me, all my fear things and all that sort of stuff, which has really been really interesting. And then I had a message actually from a friend in AA out of the blue at 5 in the morning, just after I woke up because I was getting ready for work. And she's like, "Oh my God, Julia, I heard you left AA. Are you okay?" And out of no, because I'd just woken up, I hadn't, you know, woken up properly, and I all this guilt came in, and like, oh my God, what have I done? Like
Yeah.
that, all that, and I'm like, and then went and had a shower, and I was like, no, this is not, this is not me. Like these are not my thoughts. It's coming from something else, somewhere else. I don't know. Anyway,
It's so big. It's so big. But do you know what? It's so exciting because I know for me, because I guess I first had the remembering of this information probably like it was 2011.
mm,
That was a massive year for me. And as far as talking about like this, like the God Matrix, that was just so many steps away from like talking about the global conspiracy, and most people didn't even know about that.
yeah,
So, do you know what I mean? Like, I really just kept this to myself, and luckily, my father, because pretty much everything that I used to look up, Dad used to like sit around the computer with me, or I'd send him stuff. He used to go to some seminars with me, and he was the only one that because like I talk about she'll mum will probably watch this and she'll crack the shits, but like I would talk to mum about it and she'd taken the same information, but I just said I could feel she wasn't grasping what I'm talking about.
Mm.
Um, and it's a very hard thing to articulate too, but then you see people that grasp it, and I know like I know with you, like even just the conversation, like your like explosion of consciousness is just unbelievable.
I have to pinch myself sometimes. So
I'm like honestly, like I don't even know. Like it sounds so stupid, like saying like I'm proud of you, but like I actually like I so respect like who you are and like the path that you followed. And you seem really sane. Do you know what I
so
mean? To go through all that stuff. Do you know
I
that? Like, and because like they're all of it is like it's all about breaking belief systems and programs away from finite thinking to exponential and infinite. Not even thinking, but just like understanding.
yeah,
And I mean, you've broken. I mean, you've just been, and that's what I want to say too, because this was something that I was was very uncomfortable talking about, and then especially since 2020 happened, like I always knew this Christian revival was coming, and then I started really seeing it,
a
and
lot of people have turned to God. A
I'm like,
lot.
wow, I'm like, this is like what I'd heard about years ago and how I could see that this God matrix was working. And I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm literally seeing this in real time. I'm seeing this swaying over, and people thinking that they're going towards sovereignty where they're actually backtracking. And
Mm.
that's, and so anyway, the point I was going to say is that eventually, whether I'm right or wrong, what I see to be true, I have to express that, and it's gonna piss a lot of people off.
You are so right, though, because everything that you've said, I've experienced when I decided that I wanted to quit drinking. I decided before I went to AA, and then that AA system hijacked
Yeah,
me because
yeah,
I had to believe I had to worship. Not like when I say worship, it's not what a lot of people think. It's more the thought that you need a savior, a
yeah.
God to deal with your whatever's going on within you. So it's very similar to what you've been saying. And seeing that, I like experiencing that, I was like, oh my God. But I also know that I was never born from sin. So I never had that.
Yeah,
I always felt like I was born from intent. And I just knew that. And so I think that my intuition was always stronger than the programming. So,
that's yeah.
which,
But
yeah.
that I think the whole trap of what this being is trying to do, and well, we can talk about what it is later, maybe.
Do you
Um,
have the diagram? I really like, I don't know, I didn't ask you before.
oh, the the Gnostic one.
No, the
Oh,
one
the
that
one
you
I
draw with the
do.
God. No, the God Matrix one where the
You know
false
what?
light.
I can send it to you if you want to crop it in like this bit now.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Then maybe we can talk about that. Um,
Yeah.
what was I going to say? Yeah, the intent thing, right? The and being born of sin. But yeah, I think that yeah, the ultimate goal of this being or energy or whatever you want to put, because like we anthropomorphize these things, and really they're just energy. It's like even our human body, it's more than just energy, but it's ultimately it is. That's that's what it is. But we do anthropomorphize this God figure, like with the beard and all that sort of stuff, right?
Well, we create it
Um,
with our thoughts, don't we? And thoughts
yeah,
creates energy and it feeds whatever we believe
yeah.
exists.
This is what me and Madeline was talking to me yesterday. Like we had the best combo. We always had the best ones offline. I think like, we should have recorded this, but because she's like been looking in placebo effects so much lately. She's like really getting into that, and it's almost it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy as well, and that too, and that the more if you want to actually create something into existence, if you have a collective group that will anthropomorphize a being into a certain image, whatever, you are literally creating that being, right?
Mm.
But like as far as original, like the original sin, like as far as going back to like when I knew this, I swear I was probably I remember the house I was in. I remember where I used to go to bed, and I remember it vividly what I would do every night, every single night. I would go to bed, and I just remember because I used to watch the Jesus Story
Mm.
as at like 3 or 4, just obsessed, absolutely obsessed. It was like a 4 hour Jesus story. And I was so attuned to that character. I knew there was some core truth in that story. I don't know what it was. And I was really obsessed with the suffering,
Hmm.
like that like Jesus goes through and all that. And I couldn't understand. I guess that's kind of like where I wanted to know what evil was, even as a young kid. But like I just remember mum saying to me, "You go to heaven when you die,"
Hmm.
and and that scared the absolute it scared the shits out of me because I'm like, well, what is that? And she's like, oh, you're there forever. She was trying to explain eternity to me,
Mm.
and I would contemplate. I would sit in bed and I would just contemplate for like an hour, just what infinity was, and I could feel it, and it would terrify me.
Yeah,
And I
right.
always think now the more, and I've had discussions with people about this, and they've disagreed, but like what I think now what that was I think that I even came into this reality with an instilled program to block out my infiniteness, right? Whether
Mm.
it was this being or not, because it was terrifying to me, even the thought of my infinite self,
I had the
right?
same thing. I
Is it,
as a
I know other people have had this too.
I had the same thing. I don't know why I would think about it, but the question I would ask myself, who am I? Used
Yeah.
to scare the shit out of me to a point where I don't know, like this anxiety would take over. Yeah, that I had the same very similar thing.
Well, my brother spoke to me. It was last year, wasn't that long ago, and he's got a middle child, and he's very inquisitive about what is this, who am I, he's only like, I think he's like 6, or I think he's 6, and he was asking him about some fruit on the tree and like where the fruit comes from, and he's like, oh, it comes from the tree, and he's like, well, where'd the tree come from? He's like, well, that came from a seed. He's like, well, where'd the seed come from? That come like, and my brother said like he could see his brain rattling,
Mm.
and I'm like, I fully understand what that kid's going through, because that was me at that age. And I think some people don't think like that and some do, right? So you can almost tell the consciousness of some of these souls that are coming in that they already know, right? They already know this stuff intuitively as kids. And then you get programs that come in. But to me, what he's really asking is, am I a created being? Like, how does creation start? Is there a beginning, or am I eternal? And if you're eternal, that means you were never created,
Mm.
right? You always have been, you always will be. And what I think the God Matrix is, it is installed a program within the universe of a finite. So, and at the peak of that finite, it has positioned itself as, I am the creator of all.
Yeah.
Right? So that means that you are in service to that being because you were created by that being. Now, to shift away from that, if you start going into the thinking or remembering that you you are not created, you are infinite. Now you can be created in a finite structure, but there is a part of you that exists with outside that even was part of the being that is God. You helped create that, and that is actually part of you. And I'm talking about the false God. So the false God is part of you. It's hard. I have to go down to the
No,
breakdown.
I totally
But
understand. Yeah.
and again is well, if you go so much in the Gnostic text, I mean, I know you know this stuff, but like there's this constant theme of a mimic.
Yeah.
Um, and so they always, in the Bible, and they talk about the one true God, like the one, and always reference to this Lord, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and a jealous God too. Like I think there's like 60, 70 something different references to this jealous God. Now, what is a being that is the create supposedly claiming to be the creator of all? What is it jealous of? To me, that's saying that this being, it's jealousy comes from a hierarchy that you're projecting up to something else that you want to be. So that already says to me that that is not the creator of all. What do you have to be jealous of if you
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
creator of all? So this goes
Yeah.
into the mimic. So if you're jealous, what is a person that you do see in society that's jealous of other people? They don't try and do the opposite to that person. A real jealous person will idolize and try and mimic their idol.
Yeah.
And that's what, right? So, but that's, so if that's saying there's a one, if he's claiming to be the one true creator, or then there actually is a central universal creator of this universe. So there is a being that is, you could say, is the creator that you came from and co-created with, but you also exist beyond that.
Yeah.
That's where I think people, so
Yeah.
you are in a limited, even beyond the false god, you are within a limited universe of a universal being that created this universe that you helped co-create, but you exist outside of that as well. And that is the point where you're infinite, that you were never created,
Hmm.
that you always have been and you always will be. And it's like, I don't know, I'm probably not explaining it well, but I think you got to like sit on this information too and feel
Well,
the subtleties within the energy. But I would just start with that question, like, you're infinite or you're created. There's no other. There's no in between.
mhm. I
And
actually,
if
when I first heard you talking about this, I didn't get it straight away, but I resonated with it. And I think it's just having to process it over time, and keep coming back to it. But there was something very intriguing about it because, I was brought up in a Catholic religion as well. We went to Sunday church with my nan,
yeah,
and I did my communion. I did all of that, confirmation, whatever. And I never felt right in those places. Like something wasn't right. I didn't really study the Bible too much, but I guess going back to what you were talking about with like this Jesus character, when we're talking about Christians and the Christian revival movement, I personally am not trying to sort of because I think you lose a lot of people when you say that. It's like people get really offended. And I
yeah,
think people get really offended because there's actually a big difference between fake Christians and real Christians, like what Mark Passio talks about, where real Christians actually have an understanding of natural law principles, which is what this being was really teaching us, that we're all equal, essentially.
yeah,
But I guess this fake Christian realm of people have taken this character and done that whole worship relationship. And I think it's what you're saying, if I'm right, is that it's that energy that is part of the, I guess the demiurge, I guess, or the false light. Um, but yeah, going what you were saying just before, yeah, that's a lot to
well,
contemplate.
well, it goes to the mimic again. So because if you're mimicking, because they call it, in the Gnostic text, they call it the um what do they call it? Trying to think of the term. Shit. Mental block. See, this is the God entity getting into my head. They call it the counterfeit spirit, right? So a counterfeit, it's a mimic. So if we're in a light-based universe and it's creating light, then the mimic must also be creating light. And this is what I've tried to explain as an overlay. And people will say that some people, like flat Earth people, that they'll say we're in a construct like within the planet. I'm saying that if it's mimicking light, it's mimicking the entire universe, right?
Mhm.
So, and it mimics universal compression. So it mimics you on all levels. And ultimately, this is why the human being is, this is why AI and all this sort of stuff too. It's the human being is the ultimate prize, because the human being is a compressed fractal of the creator. So if you're a false light entity, if you are creating and mimicking your own version of light, then you must mimic the exact same compressive structure of the natural universe, right? Of creation. And that's why, like, you're seeing examples of fractalization of artificial intelligence now too, right?
Mhm.
And it's all built off that the feed, and it tells you that there's a central entity too,
Yeah.
because like you could, everything's as above so below, and that, all that is that explains the hologram. So if you're,
Law of correspondence.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then it also ties into like, because light is action and reaction. That's what light is. So it's an expression to one side and a counter expression on the other side to create vibration. And
Yeah.
everyone talks about, oh, you need to raise your vibration, right? Well, vibration, like raising your vibration, is eventually to hit a 0 point where there's no distortions to either side. So it's mimicking all that as well too. And this is why I'm saying with Christian revival, the difference between like true love and the love of this false god that it feeds off you is servitude and worship. And you'll see all through the Old Testament where it talks about the servitude, right, of the people and the Israelites. That their whole point is to serve Yahweh.
Yeah.
So it's a hierarchical structure um, that's I think is even built into our biology, because I think the whole God matrix thing exists in the brain.
Yeah.
So it's the intuition is what connects outside to the all, and that the brain. And this is why you'll see through so many of the religions that there's this obsession with like the pineal gland,
Yeah.
like Kundalini awakening, like
I was there, all of that.
all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff too. Like you'll see it all, and ultimately, this is what I think that this being is trying to create. Because if everything's a mimic, we're seeing all this Satanism in the world, and and this is what's drawing people to Christianity.
Yeah.
What no one tends to point out, which I've been trying to do for a while, and I think some people are catching on, but because everyone's like, "Oh, see, it's a satanic agenda. Look how evil it is." I'm like,
It's on.
this is action and reaction,
Yeah.
because it's showing you, like we all learn about problem, reaction, solution. Like 9/11, create the problem, get the reaction from the people, go to Iraq.
Yeah.
And so people don't understand again too, because everything as above, so below. So this is happening on a grand scale. You play out eon of darkness, and then at the end, where the darkness is so obvious, look at it, it's this satanic agenda. That's not the agenda. The agenda is to pull you.
Hmm.
It's going to be a counter reaction of the offering of false love and false. It's really simple, because
And
it's
it's really
just
obvious.
it's
Yeah.
not an equal and loving relationship. They want to take you over to the side of worship, adoration, and servitude, right? And this is why I think they will play out. They're playing out Revelation. They're playing out religious prophecy. This is what it's all going into Israel and this sort of stuff. But the main point I want to get to is that the mimic. This is the mimic that's playing out, right? The looshing and fear of the dark side of this force that feeds off you, and then the love, false love, servitude to this being. It is also feeding it, right? So, but if it's doing that as a mimic, then that's telling you that true creation is doing the same thing.
Hmm.
So if it's trying to mimic that at this point, that means we actually are hitting a point of true unity that's coming in, right?
Hmm.
So I think the whole thing is to differentiate between the two. And when you get an offering of love, if you to the imbalanced individual, they're all going to fall for that.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like, see, yeah, we got the Satanist, and look, they've all, you know,
Well, and they get them by that through the programming and mind control of brain imbalance over the years, right? Whether you're left or right doesn't matter to them. It's the fact is that when you have that brain imbalance, that's where you can't, your brain isn't operating at a holistic higher level where it's not communicating properly. So, um, and you will fall for it because you don't know yourself. Do you really
yeah,
know yourself if you have that brain imbalance? And the answer is no. Like I was heavily into the new age, all that stuff through AA, all right brain imbalance. But again, when I kept asking myself, what am I willing to do to have freedom and have truth, And truth is, it's waging war on all parts of every form of deception, right? So it's a destructive process, and it's the breaking away of everything. So that's like why getting to know yourself, if you know yourself, if you break away the programming and all the layering, then you will, like that saying, you'll know the universe in a way, really, because you'll be able to see what's going on. Um, so the inner work is key
yeah,
to ultimate freedom, because it's like what again, like Passio talks about, uh, internal anarchy. No, the only ruler is the ruler, like that you're the ruler of yourself. There's no external ruler. And we're seeing that even with government, even in the freedom movement, people are still trying to go down the route that, we're just going to vote someone else in to
Yeah.
fix all our problems. And I'm like, you're doing the same shit. Like, it's not going
Yeah.
to work. Like, it's just a different label, different colors, different person speaking. That, how many times have people tried to do this? But it's still a master slave relationship. And I look at
Yeah.
that and, that's on one fractal, in one dimension. And so if that's occurring on that layer, that's occurring on
Yes. I know you get it,
multi.
Julia. I know you get
Well, again,
I know
it's
you,
just this whole AA thing. It's just my mind has just gone, holy fuck. And then with everything that I've been learned from Mark, it's like, and then you, and then my own experience, I can really see it now playing out
what
how it's all linking in.
what
And
this is the first point you made, like the born of sin. Why is born of sin? That is the ultimate program, because if you're born of sin, right? So that means you're already you've come in of sin due to nothing that you have done, right?
I want to show you something. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
No,
Can you
no.
see that?
Yep.
I wrote out this diagram. Born of
All right, can
sin.
I read original
Yeah.
sin, born of sin? This was the point I was just about to make, Julia. Nice to have
Sorry.
a savior, return to the demiurge. We have, sorry, I can't read that bit. We came
Uh,
in, okay, we came in of intent.
intent.
Yeah, cool. Born of intent, internal anarchy, return home. Mate, I don't even need to say anymore. That's
So,
but look, okay,
yeah,
no, let's talk about that, because like
yeah.
if you're a born of sin, you must need a savior, and that will represent itself on all levels. And people will go to the new age and go like they will mock Christianity, but they're waiting for the solar flash, they're waiting for the ETs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still victim and savior programming, and the only reason we have an external force of control within the planet is the belief that you're a victim. This is like, it's tied into the complete control of this matrix, is that you are born of sin.
Mm-hmm.
And even when he gets the Ten Commandments, right, is from Mount Sinai. Even so Sinai is like spelled Sinai.
Mm.
Now I've never heard anyone else break this down. I saw this a couple of years ago, and it fucking just hit me, because that again, because like the Ten Commandments has aspects of natural law within it too, and it has to, because it's a mimic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's telling you it's mimicking something else, but it's saying that it comes from sin. And sin is like the Mesopotamian god, I think, of the moon, and Saturn as well too. And Saturn rules law. So they've got all these ties in there too. And then you've got the AI aspect on it,
Mm.
Mount Sin AI. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, if you're how much, like, I'll just say to anyone, like, how much you'll change your perspective, um, because this whole game, it's all been played in the brain, right?
Yeah.
It's all manipulation through the brain, because it's manipulation of your beliefs and your behaviors, and ultimately where you end up is your beliefs. Like even in my human life, I'm just the sum total of all my experiences and actions that I've played out, and all my experiences and actions have been based on my own belief system. And this is why I think like my next 30 years is going to be completely different, because I've dropped a lot of my old belief systems, and like it's forever changing now. So I don't even know where I'm gonna end up. So it's all control of belief. We're looking at how this system operates, how it's going to come down, and that, and it's all belief system,
Mm.
right? And that's ultimately why they want to play up this death and resurrection, and create a new world. And I feel like there's multiple aspects of this playing out, and this is what the whole Third World War is about. It's destruction to bring in the new, and why everyone talks about the New World Order, but very few people talk about the new religion, because that's fundamental to the whole thing. That's more important. It's more important than the digital currency, one world bank, one all that sort. Even that, it's all base level shit. But ultimately, they want the one world religion, because they want a siphoning, and actually, again, it's like a compression of all these different structures and form them into one to feed back to this entity, right?
Is it this one world religion, which is a hijacking, right? Is that the hijacking of the hero's journey, essentially?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's mimicking and playing the hero's journey. Yeah, and
Talk about the
ultimately,
hero's journey a little bit because
yeah, the hero is humanity. But that because we put we place the hero in a movie or in the form of religion because Jesus is the Jesus story is the ultimate hero's journey, and I think it's what it is. It's just a universal blueprint, and that's why we're so attuned to that story. And really, it's the story of our um, it's a story of separation return. That's all it
Mhm.
is. So, and that goes into the Gnostic texts where they talk about the great void and the upper and the lower, and they speak about the waters above and the waters below, which is all like waveform. But then Yahweh comes in the Old Testament as the fire, so he's already showing you that this is a different being, and the Old Testament God and the New Testament God are are not the same. But ultimately, yeah, the hero's journey, without going the whole way into it, is it's separation, return, but it's a dissension. And at the point that you don't think you're evolving, you actually are. And at the lowest point of the hero's journey, is where you're at you believe you're at the lowest point, but it's because that all the experience has been gained, and then in the return, the knowledge that's gone through all the trials and tribulations um, comes back in the return. But ultimately, there's a death and rebirth process right near the end. And then you can see this. So if you're looking at, you watch movies and people keep saying, "Oh, it's like we're living in a movie." It's like it's like, yeah,
Hear that all the time.
it
Yeah.
is a movie. It's because we're following a universal blueprint, but ultimately, is like, and this is why they'll position a character like Trump or whatever, because Trump is the hero's journey beautifully as well. Like I've spoke many times, and again, I've never seen anyone else point this out. Like, fuck, clap on the back, Dale. For no, I honestly like I don't know how I work this out, but I watch him going down the escalator and go, "It's hero's journey. That's
Yeah.
fucking hero's journey." Because he always talks about that was the start. Because the first point of the hero's journey is the call to adventure. So intention again,
Yeah.
the original intent. I'm going to go on this journey, right? And then they call it what's it called, crossing the abyss, right?
Mhm.
Which is also called the point of no return. So you see that in many movies, and like that's when like for an example in Lord of the Rings, that's when Frodo is given the ring. So actually before that there is the rejection of the call.
Mhm.
So he's like, no, I don't want to take the ring back, and then Gandalf won't, and that's like where Neo literally rejects the call, like from Morpheus. But then there's the point of no return. So that is like when Neo, or that would be when Frodo then heads off with a ring, or when Neo takes the pill. So
Yeah.
there's no, and Morpheus literally says there's no going back. Like if you make this choice, that's it. So
Mhm.
what it's telling you is the only way back home or up is down. You're going to have to go all the way down, which is actually just a representation of going into the psyche or the deepest point of the unknown aspects of the self. And that's why the lowest point is called the belly of the whale. It's referred to, Joseph Campbell called it the belly of the whale, because about the whale is, well, the deep water is the deepest part of the human psyche, and then within the whale is even
Oh, wow.
more so.
It confirmed something for me. Yeah, okay.
And again, this is why I kept talking about the whale, and the whale represents to me, and to me, it represents an intuition. It's a part, it's a memory of self that exists beyond all this game, right?
Mhm.
It's because that's the deepest point. And this is what yeah, like the story of Jonah and the whale, right? He had to go within, he literally went within inside the whale to find himself. Um, and like even in Star Wars, they go into, the bit where the things like closing in,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's the belly of the whale. Like, and it's, um, yeah. So where
So
was I
it's
going?
no,
Right.
would
Yeah,
you
there was a weird with the Trump character. So they're played out. Trump, that was when he crossed the void. There's no
Mhm.
going back now. He's made the decision. He's going to run for president, and he can't back out now. Once you're in, you're in. Right?
Mhm.
It's like if you've taken a psychedelic. It's like once you've taken it, you're like, fuck, I wish I hadn't taken. It's like you're in now. It's like you fuck it. I saw Mike Tyson say this once. He's like, he took the toad and he's like, no, 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 I don't want it. He's like fighting. And he's like, no, 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 no. And then he gets, and the dude's like, you're in now, man. You got to
Yeah.
fucking go for the ride. So it's like that's the ultimate part is like the decision. So anyway, like if you follow Trump and like Trump, they symbolize him with the golden hair. They call him the golden man, like so much of it, right? And that it's the whole point of it is because that is our story. That's a universal story.
Hmm.
So we will naturally project what we want to be, or because we're so controlled by see movies as like external things, but we're putting ourselves within that character that he can play out the hero where ultimately it's you are the hero. We're all the hero, right?
And I think that's what people do. Like, well, when I say people, that's what I've yearned for. Like, I want to have that power within myself, right? I don't want to externalize it. And that's not an ego thing, but it's more, well, maybe a little bit of an ego thing, but not in a negative way. Ego's not bad,
No,
like I was taught, but it's actually stepping into your real true essence, your power that where I don't know. I don't know how to explain it into words, but I'm really sort of just feeling like I'm coming into that. Because before you're talking about the water, like when I was, because I feel like I've done, I don't know if it's the first time I tried to do, I think I went on that sort of hero's journey. It was that hijacking took place, right? With that AA. That's
mm,
how I'm sort of seeing it. And then I went through it again, which is what the last 3 or 4 years have been about, especially last year. That was really intense because of all the stuff I was letting go of. But I felt like I went through it again. And now I haven't felt like I've had any sort of hijacking occur where I'm coming out. I'm like, all right, what do I do now? Like I'm kind of feeling good. But it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
like I'm not on this trip or anything. I'm not on this high. It's just a neutral,
yeah,
balanced
yeah.
place where I'm like, all right, well, I'll just keep moving forward. But with me as me, not externalizing this any sort of being. And what an awesome place to be in because I don't have to rely on, there's not no fear of having to be someone I'm not, and
Yeah.
that I can just be me. Like that's how awesome is that? Like I don't have to worry about what people
Beautiful.
think
Yeah.
or what the music industry thinks about what I say or what AA thinks about what I say or anyone that I've ever met in my whole entire life. I can just speak and do the work and hopefully help others. But anyway, the water. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. The water. I was actually experienced in within a few days. I had so many themes around water. Like I accidentally drove over a dead kangaroo and it blew my radiator, so all the water like came out of my car. The following night, my hot water bottle burst in my bed, and then I was
Really?
dreaming about water. Like, and
Really?
yeah, so
You haven't fished enough?
no. But I'm just saying, like, it's interesting how for me it's like the that was shown or symbolized or in some sort of way when that energy is occurring, I think. I don't know.
Is
Um,
it? It's fucking. I'll tell you one with me, right? So the last week, my whole theme is like I can control my future. Like if I can harness my mind, I can actually do anything.
yeah.
Right? And then it's so weird. I've just been thinking this, been hanging out with this guy, and I just said like a couple of negative things about myself, which is like I think it's just like an Aussie thing, right?
Mm,
Always downplay your anyway. So I do that, and he actually pulled me up yesterday. This bloke, he goes, Why do you say that?" He goes, "You need to change your mindset," because he said he had chronic arthritis, and he reckons he cured it just through meditation, positive mind. He said, like, you just got to just repeat this shit to yourself, but it's not that. It's like it's a knowing. It's not yeah, repeating mantras like don't think you are, know you are. Like you know
mm,
you are. And then this scene just kept coming in, and then I found this George Foreman quote online. It just randomly come up, and he was talking about when he made his comeback 15 years after retirement, and everyone's saying like you're too fat, you're too slow, and he goes, everything that I heard from other people, I looked in the mirror, and he's like, I'm strong, I'm young, and he
mm,
goes, I didn't think it. He goes, I knew it, I could see it. He goes, when I hit the bag, I knew as a young man hitting the bag. Anyway, I go down and get a coffee this morning just before I got here. And this guy, he was from Norway, but I thought he was American. He was talking to the coffee dude in Thai,
mm.
and I'm like, oh, how long you lived in Thailand? And he's like, oh, no, I don't live here. I've only been in about 6 weeks. I said, oh, when did you learn Thai? And he goes, no, I just pick it up. I'm like, how though? And he goes, oh, I've probably spent 1.5 years here over the last 15 years. I'm like, I would have spent 2 years here the last 15 years. Like, I've like just learned how to order a coffee. Like I can like Capologna. That's like I've just learned that to like get a large coffee. And I'm like, how'd you do that? And then I just say, oh, look, mate, like I lived in the Czech Republic for a couple of years and I did Czech lessons and I just couldn't get it. I can't learn languages. And he goes, you can, everyone can learn it. I said, no, I can't. And then I walked out and I went, I just did it again.
Mm.
I have this, that's my belief. I can't learn languages. I'm too stupid. My brain doesn't work that way. And I'm like, no, that's my belief system that I've repeatedly told myself that I can't do it. Really, what I'm saying is I don't want to learn, right?
Yeah,
I'm not,
exactly.
I'm not
Yeah.
interested. I'm not interested in learning. I don't
Mm.
need to learn. I'm too lazy. I don't see any value in it. That's what I'm really saying. And I'm like, it's just good to be conscious of yourself now. And I'm like, I'm fucking going to make a real concerned effort of not saying a negative shit and putting limitations on what I can and can't do. And ultimately that comes from my belief system because as much as I talk about this shit, I'm a contradiction so many of the times where, you know, no one's perfect, right? But
Yeah.
at least I'm becoming more conscious of how I do that, right? I can't do this, I can't do that, you
I have
know,
the
like,
same thing. I have the same thing. Sometimes I find myself catching myself in old ways of thinking. And that's just muscle memory maybe, or because you've
yeah.
done it all your whole life. But when you're present and you're practicing awareness, which where I guess meditation can help. I don't know, I'm kind of like don't do it as much as I used to, but just being aware, you can just yeah, really I guess do a lot of good stuff in that. But yeah, I do the same thing sometimes.
Have you had this too? Like, even like when I first started doing videos, and this is why I was kind of like, I was proud that I got past this barrier because, like, in my head, right, I'm just like, even now, I'm like, no one's gonna watch this shit. Who the fuck's interested in listening to like some dickhead? And like, and lastly, is like, please don't anyone listen to me and think that I'm like telling you how to live or like I've got it worked out because I absolutely don't. Like,
Mm,
I'm not preaching to anyone at
yeah,
all, right?
yeah.
But you know, like I think like yourself and me that like we do think differently than most of the population, right?
Hmm. Well, yeah, because a lot, well, there are a lot of people that just don't want to ask those questions and they don't want to, they just want to live their life. And that to me, look, that's, I guess, is that free will? Well, I guess, is that a programming? Most likely. I don't know. Like I'm learning from these people too, because they're showing me um their choice. They're showing me a different level of consciousness, and it's not, it is in a way like judgment is a really powerful tool because it gives us the ability to discern. But I learn from people that don't want to know the truth as well.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
They're my
Yeah.
greatest teachers. But what was the what did you ask a question? I lost my.
No, no, I didn't ask.
Uh,
Oh, no, no, no. I was just kind of saying, no, I didn't know. I didn't ask a question. I'll tell you what, though, like I want to bring this up or I'll forget it. Um, like going again back to like mimicking and seeing as above, so below, because we don't need to go into the whole like hologram structure of the universe, but like it's a fucking hologram, all right? It's proven.
yeah.
But so everyone's talking about the central bank digital currency and the Chinese credit based, what do they call it? Credit system. What do you call it? Social credit system,
Social credit system. Yeah.
right? And I'm like, okay, everyone's like they're fully against that, and I'm like, what do you think these like Abrahamic and particularly Christianity is about? It's a credit based religion. It's like do this, 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 and you will earn your way, right? You have to earn your
Mm.
way to then spend eternity in service to God, right? So
Mm.
it's like,
It's
and
the same thing.
that's expressing itself on this level as a social credit system. And I've heard
Wow.
like George Kavaslis described this once to, and it's to me it makes so much sense, and I can't like verify this as a feeling, but he said that like within these heavenly realms that do exist, right? Because they're a creation of us, that it's all about rigid protocol and service, right?
Mm.
Now, if you're an infinite being, and you're stuck within a finite realm, and your entire eternal existence is of service to God. Fuck that.
Hmm.
I don't want to go there. And that was my thought as a kid too. When mum described heaven, I'm like, well, what do I do then? She's like, you're there forever. I'm like, that sounds absolutely horrible. I do not want to go there. So
Mm.
I knew I didn't want to go to heaven because it was being described to me in a limited, finite place. I couldn't explain it back then. But then if you go into the infinite nature of life, it's constant, it's constant expansion, it's constant growing.
Mm.
And then that's what I think, like this process of going through the universal journey here and the hero's journey within this universe is like the end of the hero's journey is the master of two worlds. So you've experienced, been and done it all, and you're back to where you started.
Yeah.
So just um, like that's what you said, because you've had like smaller cycles again, because you come back and you sometimes you're literally in the place where you started the journey, but you're
Hmm.
not the same person. You look around, the people around you aren't, they're all the same, right? But it's like
That's
you're
right.
not the same.
Mm.
You're not the same. It's like, like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. So she starts in Kansas,
Hmm.
and then it was all just a dream. And she wakes up and she's in the same place where she started, but she's not the same. She looks around, all the people are the same, but
Hmm.
the learning and the growth means you've changed, right? And
Yeah.
ultimately, so if that's happening within us, that's the story of the universe. You eventually, once you've completed all the universe, you come out, you pop out, you're integrated with the creator of this universe, and it's like a split second, but you've integrated, the learning that's occurred is massive, and then you just go on and you explore.
Yeah.
It's
Mm.
another. But it takes away fear too. Like when you strip away that religious program, because it's all based off fear. And I've met so many Christians that they're kind of not really doing things because it's the right thing to do. They're doing it because if they don't do it, God will see, right? Will smite
Yeah.
them. Well, that shouldn't be a reason why you're
That's
doing something because you want to earn your place into heaven. I better not do that, even if that's what I want to do, because I've got to earn my way into heaven. I'm like, that's fucking bullshit. That's not, you haven't,
that's
you,
psychopathic in a way, because if you put
yeah,
it in a let's say you've got a relationship with your mother or father or even partner, and that's the dynamic that you
yeah,
can't do something because you're going to get punished. I'm sorry, that's an abusive relationship.
yeah,
It's really simple. So if people are having that relationship with God, oh, he's watching, always watching, and then who the hell is this being? Why are people not asking the question, who? Well, who is God? Why does he, you know, um, but that's again goes to the like if you know yourself and you don't put up with abuse and you, I don't know, take ownership of yourself, that complete internal anarchy, then you will start to see that again on that on a larger scale with this. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's
That's
pretty.
the point I want to make to people too. They're like when we say, because it's hard when you're talking terms, right? And some people will talk about God and they're trying to talk about the infinite, right? But when I'm talking about like the Abrahamic God, that that is a God that's pretending to be the creator. It's claiming to be the creator of
Mm,
all,
mhm.
but it's not.
Yeah.
So it's one being, because that's what you mentioned ego before. So it's like that is the height of ego. And I actually think that the being like God actually stays within existence is actually the collection of everyone's ego. Passio talks about, he describes Satanism as the worship of the ego above all else.
Hmm.
So again, it's like that's finite, and that goes into atheism too. It's just like, or like Crowley, like do what thou wilt. What does it matter? Because like I am the ego. I'm only the ego. I'm Dale, and that's it. So
Mm,
take that on another level. You have God that is, I am the only God. Bow towards me. Like
yeah.
it's like a psychotic ego, and this being needs servitude and worship. Like
Yeah.
what sort of, imagine, like just forget that it's a god figure. Imagine if you had a person walking around in society that was like, get on your knees to me, I created.
Bitch.
Like you'd be
Yeah, I
like,
know.
that's the most egotistical
Mm.
psychopath ever, and I don't know how people can't read that energy, right?
Which is why we see a lot of solipsists around. perhaps, because it's that worship of the ego as well, above all else. And
That's what it
that
is. Yeah.
yeah, and it's that manifests both in left brain imbalance and right brain imbalance.
Yeah.
Um, you also, like, for example, the left brain would be like the atheist, that nothing exists beyond me, and then but the right brain, even like when you mentioned the simulation theory, how that has been used to capture people. I think I would probably say it in the right brain imbalance, because, oh, well, if everything's a simulation, then I don't need to do anything
Yeah.
as well. So it's like, again, people just don't know themselves. So they're getting trapped in all these multiple agendas. And then some people have an absolute breakdowns because the pendulum has swung so hard the one way that they're stuck there.
Yeah.
And whether you're stuck in the left or the right of the pendulum swing, the hardest is actually the breaking down, so you get back into that middle balance point. Um, yeah, but
Yeah. I know.
you're
I
right.
know that. I know Passio talks a lot within that the New Age presentations that he's done here. He talks about it being a being a right brain imbalance, and I've seen that like in Christianity as well too, because like even if you believe the story, the like Joseph Atwell's book, he wrote Caesar's Messiah, and they spoke about like the Flavians and like Josephus and stuff, that they came in to like stop the warring Jews back. This is if you believe this, right? But like to stop the warring Jew sect at that time with the Roman Empire, that they knew that the Jews had the belief in the Messiah, so they aimed to create a pacifist, which is similar to the New Age, a pacifist Messiah in the form of Jesus that was like Mithraism before that. And ultimately, it's big. That stopped being a controlling mechanism too, right? Because it's all that turn the other cheek kind of preachings as well too, which is true. But it's like describing like one side of natural law without the other. Like Passio speaks about the um, what is it like the what are the two principles? I'm trying to think again.
The of natural law.
Yeah, no, what the self-defense principle and
Oh,
non what does he call it?
non-aggression. No.
Non-aggression principle. Yeah, the
Yeah.
non-aggression principle.
Yeah.
So he's picking up the non-aggression principle, and if it's just that, that's the right brain imbalance. So if the
Yeah.
non-aggression principle is right, and then the principle of self-defense is the other, but you can't have one without the other, right?
Mhm.
Whereas there a lot of people push towards that, and then you have like this abundance Christianity stuff too. Have you seen this?
Um,
These are like all these preachers that because they're running the church and they got $100 million and that, and they say this is because I gave my life to Christ and stuff, that this abundance has come forward. And a lot of people have this kind of mindset that once you give your life to Jesus, that you will start seeing material things right in your world. So
mhm.
it's again, it's more about the self, is to like bring in more material things because this is the reward. Or
Law of
again,
attraction, what they're trying to
yeah. And
put.
again, it's like this credit system. So like the more I
Yeah.
give to Jesus, the more I will receive material credits, right? Um, and I think it works too, right?
Mhm.
Because and it's almost like placebo again. So it's your belief system that this being is going to give you abundance, means you therefore will give abundance. And then through that relationship, you then keep giving
Yeah.
more and more of yourself to that being and getting the feedback in return. And it just creates
That's the
that
12th step in AA. It's what you have to do service in order to have your sobriety, because if you don't, you're going to get sick and die
right.
because you've got a
Yeah.
disease. And well, that's the 12th step. Like,
It's like the Jehovah's Witness, isn't it? Because I'm
yeah.
like, do they really want to be out there every freaking day, like hassling people at fucking train? Are they train stations?
I used to get so guilty because I wasn't doing enough service, and no wonder I was, not doing so well sometimes. And it was kind of like this program was installed to me, like the placebo effect. If you believe it, it's going to occur. But this was
Mm.
on the negative aspect, so it's a trap. Um, but yeah.
So that's what I'm going to ask you too, because after like after we like looking to this God matrix stuff too, and then like just how much can you see that it's almost like that it's the exact same being just in another compartmentalized structure that we call AA, right? So it's the same, it's the
Same
identical
thing.
program.
Mm. Um, that's why I'm just like coming out of it and then listening to you and in the past for a while now, I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly it. And that I know that being now, being in contract with it because I had to get on my knees and give up my will and my life over to the care of God because I can't, you know, it's so fucked up. But like,
But you know, even what you just said then, like you've said, "Oh my God," like 3 times too. Now,
yeah,
how much of it inbuilt?
yeah,
Like we all say that, right? We all
yeah,
say that. So it's all that. It's almost like a deposit to that being. Then, yeah, it's
yeah,
so wild. It's so ingrained in everything.
yeah.
Like even like the British. It's like what do they say to like God and Queen, and the Americans they always say God bless America. It has to say at the end. And I'm like, well, is God got like a particular liking for the for the Americans? And this was a big one that come up for me. Like, so I like was quite into like the Q stuff, right?
Hmm.
And and I mean, I even from the start, I could see. Because like I'd read Wilcock and that for years, and he always spoke about this military alliance and that. And some people think it's bullshit. I tend to think it's real. I think they're real, but I think they are working for the light side of the aspect of this God being, right? And
The false light, you mean?
yes, but and if you look at the Q board, it always said like the big phrase is from dark to light God wins, and I'm like, oh my God, it's explaining the construct, because that's the whole game. The whole game is show you the dark, bring you to the light, God wins, and God wins on the dark or the light. It doesn't matter. It's a feedback mechanism to both, right? And I'm
Mm,
like, you just showed me the whole ritual in like
yeah.
one.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's not it's not humanity wins. It's not dark to light. Humanity wins. It's
Hmm.
not dark to light sovereignty for everyone. It's God wins. Well,
Mm,
it's like, who's God? Who's
mm,
this being? Um, and if you they supposedly Lucifer is a fallen angel anyway, so he's a creation of God himself,
hmm,
right?
hmm. Mm,
So it's like, well, what's the war? And
yeah.
really, it's actually just describing an internal struggle, because all these things are all aspects of ourself. They're all archetypes of us, right? But
Yeah.
we put it onto an external being, and I think that's the whole thing that just keeps us in here. But and
Mm,
again, it's all purposeful too, because
yeah.
it is like a game, but it's a game of growth, and it's a game that we all had intention to be part of the game.
Hmm.
I don't even like calling it a game, but you know what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
that. I would say more like the drama of this light construct. It's a
Mm,
drama because it's duality.
yeah. So where does AI fit into this? Because that's
Well, it's hard if you want to almost look at them. Want to almost look at them as one and the same. I know, like when we had George Cavassos on the other week, now he explains the difference between God and the AI God as two separate things, right? Whereas, yeah, the AI God he is like that's more of the mimic character that we've been speaking of, and he God is like um, it's like a position, um, and I guess it just works on behalf of the creator as to bring a form of limitation and separation. It's like the ultimate form of separation. So
mhm.
if you claim to be the creator of all, you are actually the most. So God is the most separated from creator.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's hard to say. Like I almost look at that. I almost look at them as one and the same.
Mm,
I know he describes it differently, but like to me, I almost look at them as one and the same. But I think the difference is AI just exists within the construct of technology,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. So much to think about. So you said at the start, that one of your biggest drives, well, you didn't, I'm paraphrasing, one of the things that you was driven that it's getting really hot in here now.
Is it? Yeah.
Um, I'm upstairs, so like I just said.
We
Anyway,
can wrap it up, sir.
yeah, that's okay. I got two more questions that I want to sort of cover.
What's the
Uh,
temperature?
I think today it's like 30 something in the yeah, and gets hot upstairs. Like
That's a scorcher in Victoria, though, isn't it? It is
yeah,
February.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, keep going.
Um, Lost my train of what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, you wanted to know evil, right? How far do you reckon you've come to a point of where you've actually, I don't know, known, like understood it, known it, that
Well,
that
yeah. I mean, that's a good question actually, because I have I say even like more and more so, especially the last year, the evil stuff kind of it doesn't trigger me like I used to. I used to have used to be quite triggered by it, and I don't think I haven't focused on it as much, particularly around satanic ritual abuse. Now, if you're looking at like the height of evil, there's not really much. There's not really much more evil than that, right? Like
yeah.
ritual abuse and child abuse, like it's pretty much as that's as sick as it gets. Um, so to me, like I was always asking the question, well, what, like why? Like why does that exist, right?
Mm,
And again, if that expression exists, then the polar expression must exist as well. And I
hmm
think ultimately, at a soul level, it is to be, do, and see everything within this reality.
yeah.
So it's co-creation because it's all role playing. As much as we don't want to say like the ego doesn't want to accept that, but I'm just saying at the highest level, it is role playing. Because you don't do you truly understand love without knowing what evil is? Do you know
Mm,
evil without knowing what true love is? And that's all. It's separation and unity too. And I don't want to be like disrespectful to people that have been through that. And obviously, we know people that have been through that. And
mhm.
but how do we really stop it? That's the point I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
But I think the exposure of that dark side is going to show people true love too, right? And that's what I said. Like the mimic is trying to creep in because it wants to show you that to give you the false version, but it's also an opportunity to come towards true
Mhm.
love, right?
Mm.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how much do I understand it. Again, like if you just look at it energetically, it's just um, it's a distorted energy wave. They can't see beyond it. And like if you look at Satanists and stuff like that, they fully believe in their one side of this God aspect, right, of Lucifer. They can't see beyond that.
Yeah.
That's why I think they're hooked into it through their biology and as obviously their mind control training and stuff like that too. But they can't. They're in a even a more limited box that they can't see beyond.
But
Um,
even what is coming through them when they perform these sacrifices, you got to like what entities,
yeah,
and what stays with them as well after those rituals.
yeah. Well, if you said intuition before too, like hey, like you express yourself, like you can feel it, when something's right too. So I think like the Satanist is ultimately it's just so devoid of any part of that the soul and intuition to the point where it's almost diminished. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the ritual process is to just continually diminish any type of like divine spark that's within that being that might want to come out.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
that's why it's routinely kind of done, even like to the mind control slave, and that it's like the brain keeps trying to go back to its natural state, and that's why they have to continually perform the rituals.
Ah, yeah.
It needs to keep blocking it. So it's like it's telling us that the natural state of the human wants to
Mm,
connect with its infinite self, right? It always wants to go back to what it truly is,
yeah.
and that it needs like this rigid protocol, which is just a fear-based program from Lucifer,
Mm,
that one side of the the false light
yeah.
to keep them in. And I mean, you can that's what artificial intelligence is doing now. You can see like people are waking up and people are connecting with themselves. So it's like fuck, trap them in an
Yeah.
artificial,
Yeah.
trap them in an
Yeah.
artificial synthetic thing, and we'll just keep processing them through this fucking
Mm.
never-ending loop, you know.
I'm gonna
But
jump.
then it goes
Yeah.
back to like, it all goes back to how important. Then you're like, fuck. Well, why would you put in such an effort for us like pitiful humans, right?
Exactly.
We've got to be pretty fucking important to be put through this sort of shit, right?
Yeah. Which goes back to the point where, how we're walking universes and how like I don't even know what what I am as a human being, like what I'm actually totally capable of, you know? Um, so yeah, so it'll be interesting with the next generation coming up when when parents don't, for example, indoctrinate them in schools. They're not taught the bullshit. They're more connected to Mother Earth, to nature. Um, it'll be interesting what occurs as well. Like I think in the last STE chat, even if like not getting a kid, not getting a birth certificate for a kid, if will that change the
Mm,
energy of someone being raised? Because
yeah,
that starts that whole the contract is started there, isn't it? So that's another contract, isn't it? So um yeah, I wanted to make one more point. Smart cities, smart grids, can you talk a little bit about that? Because um,
yeah.
disconnection from nature is probably another way
Yeah. Well,
that's
it's yeah.
like
I
what's
mean,
that really about?
well, yeah. I mean, like you would know, like we've like Clint said in our course, and I just thought that was an absolute gem. I don't think I think he said it the first STA we did,
Mm,
and he just said country gets lonely, and that blew my mind away when he said that.
mm,
And he gave like real world examples of how he's seen the environment change by humans connecting with the environment. And it's like, okay, well, why do they want us in smart cities?
mm,
Well, yeah, it's about surveillance and it's about control and it's about limiting the numbers and and ultimately it's like this AI that's terrified of not having access and data to everything. So it's got to have, yeah, okay, it's about all that, but there's got to be another layer to it. And when he said that, I'm like, okay, that's what it's about
mm,
because it does the AI does not want us walking on the earth because that to me that's where again it's like we've said before like that's where your intuition and your true infinite self is going to come out with your it's completely symbiotic with the planet
mm,
and our awakening is completely symbiotic with the Earth's awakening, and that we kind of forget that's actually a being that is chosen to manifest, to come down and be able to facilitate an experience for all us universal beings, to come down and facilitate an experience like that for all like that. If you think of that being on that level, like that's real sacrifice.
mhm,
Right? If you don't look at it even like as a planet, like look at that, that is a real being, that is a universal being itself, like in a planetary embodiment, like that's true sacrifice. So if we've got that much of a connection with this planet, which we clearly do, we've all got our feet on her. And to me, that's like what gravity is just like this magnetism of your relationship with the planet. That's why everyone tries to explain what gravity is. But it's like that your gravity is just your relationship with the mother.
yeah.
That's that's why we're all here. So why do they want us in smart cities? They don't want us. They don't want
Mm,
us walking on it. They because and like Rachel's mentioned this too, and she like talking about the ley lines and how some have said that like new ley lines have started to form within the last 10 years or whatever. So like clearly the planet's changing. The planet's going through this awakening as well too. And I think the whole point is like this outside force, this controlling force, it knows what the planet's doing. It knows it's basically birthing a new humanity and we're supposed to go through that process with her. So what
mhm,
does it do? Get them in the smart cities,
yeah.
do not connect with the earth. And I think it's almost kind of like that it's making like a synthetic compression. So the more it can get us into the smart city, we will actually form into another synthetic compression and therefore we won't connect and go through the process with the earth. And I think
Uh,
it knows that it can't stop that process.
Hmm.
But okay, if it can't stop it, then it's going to try and stop as many individuals going
Mm.
through the process with you.
And actually, what I've actually been consciously making a huge effort to do, because I work outside all day, and I'm outside and uh, around a lot of trees, and I actually stand because I'm standing there and I'm actually trying to, instead of just looking at the forest, oh, isn't that pretty? I'm actually tuning into her and that, and it's like it's awesome. And is that I think has something about that, doing that every day has made a huge shift in, I think that's helped me a lot on many levels that I'm not even aware of consciously. But yeah, so like don't just get out into nature, but actually sit there or just stand there and just tune into the feel of what it feels like, because not everywhere's going to have a good feeling depending on where those, I guess, those ley lines have interrupted positive flow. But where I've been working particularly, and it's really, really nice just to, yeah,
I reckon too. Like I used to have this period, like I want to connect with nature, and you get out there, and you're like, you can never do it in a forced way. It's like just be. Don't
yeah,
even because
that's it.
people are like, I need to go out there and find the answers. No, you've lost it already.
Hmm.
Like just get out. Like just do
Hmm.
it. I
Yeah.
heard one the other day, some guy, he was like recommending, so like if you go into a new location, particularly if it's got water, to like, I like Maddie would say this too, like go into the river, go into the ocean straight away. And it's like you're putting, you're merging your energy with that location straight
Yeah.
away. It's like, you shouldn't need to think about it. It's just like,
Just do it or be it. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool.
cool, mate. So
Well,
when are you putting this up?
I'll pop it up on Monday night after work because
Oh, yeah, I thought it was about you because mum rang me. Mum's like, "You're doing a thing with Julia, and I didn't know this. And why didn't you tell me? And why didn't you?" I'm like, "I didn't fucking know she posted anything." What are you talking about? She's like, "She posted it before you." I'm like, "Oh, sorry, Mum." Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'll pop it up on Monday after work. It's just too
All right.
hot. It's too hot,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I sometimes my like I've got a little fan keeping my laptop cool, and whew, yeah, sometimes I've had a few different glitches, so I try to do it. And plus, I can always chat to people when I'm live streaming as well. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's irrelevant.
Oh, yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
Yeah. I've actually never put any videos on Facebook like that. I should do that, eh?
Facebook's still,
They're
pretty
pretty
big.
good.
Yeah, like on I found find it on your on personal profiles, so you get a bit more. But like it's the same thing. It's just consistency in the algorithm, I guess. If it likes you or whatever, it'll. But yeah, I still get, you still can reach a few people. A lot of people still use Facebook, so I don't know.
Anytime, like I've done it a couple of times with you actually. I'm like, I've just shared, oh, hey, Julia's got this thing on Facebook. Oh, I haven't got Facebook. Well, where else can I watch it? I'm like, fucking chill out. Like, fucking either like get Facebook or don't watch it. Like, or wait till she puts it on Rob. Like, they get real angry about it that
No.
it's on Facebook. I'm like, what does it matter? They're all just like,
Whatever platform you're on, it's just a different label again. It doesn't, like, I don't know. If you're worried about being tracked, then get rid of a phone. Like,
yeah, get rid of it all.
get rid of it all. But I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to say anything else, or
Um,
what's up? What's next for you? What are you doing?
I don't know, mate. I'm in limbo land again at the moment. I'll tell you a funny one. So you know how I got these. I won't go too long. I know you want to go. You know,
That's okay.
I got this staph infection, right?
Yeah.
Now, like, so I did this consultation with Melissa, and it basically like worked out that it's clearly like it's all like psychological, emotional stuff, right? That's why it came out, and I won't go into it because it's a bit personal.
That's all
But
right.
like, but anyway, so it kind of has like ties to me like settling down and like limo stuff, right?
Mm.
So anyway, I got it all and I cleared it all, and like I'm in my last week now. I've just started to think about coming home because I'm going home in like another week. I'm like, fuck, I'm going back to Australia. What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? I swear I get another staph like on my
No way.
on my leg. It's cleared real quick.
Yeah,
But
right.
it's and like I think I needed to see that too because from what she explained to me and my personality traits and why this come up in my body, it's completely tied to um, behaviors, controlled behaviors that I have that actually kind of aren't me.
Mm.
right? And anyway, so it come up again just as I had the same.
How fast does it manifest though now? Like the
That was
answer.
that was like 2 days.
Yeah, right. There you go. Try
So
something different.
anyway, my answer is I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going down to Victoria for a wedding, and
Mhm.
then actually I'm going up to see Campbell and Callie. They're doing a Tartare event in Sunshine Coast.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
obviously me and Madeline have just finished our Sky to Earth, the second one. So
Which was awesome, by the way. I loved it.
yeah, and thanks
Mm.
for you. Yeah, thanks for coming on and sharing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, man, Mads. Yeah, hopefully we do. I think we've got a few more people lined up for the podcast. So yeah, we're
Mhm.
trying to do our best to like zip our mouth and let the people talk, which is like I actually think with you we definitely interrupted the most, but it was probably because we're most comfortable with you, maybe.
It felt really natural to me. So I didn't feel like you guys were interrupting because it's to me, my perspective was that we were all really like, oh my God, there's so much to say.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's when you're the listener and you're trying to listen, it's different and it's harder with Zoom because it does cut off people. But you're not actually because in a
yeah.
natural conversation, that would
Mm.
be normal, wouldn't it? It
Well,
it just
yeah, I agree. But you know what? When you're a listener, it's different. So, like when you talk, you kind of, it's hard to be conscious of it. But then, like, I know when I listen to podcasts, I'm like, shut up, he didn't answer the question. Like,
yeah,
when
yeah.
you really want to know what they're about to say, and then they cut, and you're like, motherfucker.
Fuck, yeah, I know.
So, yeah, I get it. But, look, I'm not a podcaster. I'm not a freaking I'm not any of these things. I just, so give us a
Oh,
break.
we're all doing what we got to do to, um, I guess be a voice for people or for ourselves even, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
But yeah,
well,
what about yourself too, before you
I'm
go?
I'm just working at the moment.
You're
It's
busy.
okay. Yeah, I've had a friend of mine basically sort of say very nicely and gently to me, Julia, you need to record your album because you know, it's got to like she gave yeah. I've been kind of putting it on the side a little bit, just because I don't know. I've had some old fears come up again. So I really got to do that and do the podcast as well. And so I might just take a few weeks break and then just smash it out because I got
You
all
got
the
some,
songs
you got
written and
several.
everything. What?
Oh, really? They're all written.
Yeah, I've got to do some tweaks and figure out a few other different parts, but they're all like there's at least 6, 7 tunes that are ready ish. I've got
Yeah,
to tweak them and then basically just go into a studio and record them. But
yeah.
yeah, so that's my goal this year. I've got to get this music done and recorded. Yeah.
Oh, good luck.
Thanks. I'm just so busy. Like work is flat out,
Yeah.
working in the heat all day. Sometimes the shifts are 10 hours, so they're long, but yeah, need the money at the moment. So yeah,
Oh, you
that's
must be
me.
start. Well, I'm not going to complain after.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
But
Yeah, awesome chat
thank
with
you
you.
thanks for yeah, coming on and having a chat. It's been good.
Yeah, love you, mate.
You
We'll
too.
do it again.
All right.
All right.
All right. We'll chat soon.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.